שלך, תן לי עוד חיבוק, ספר לי עוד בדיחה. לא רוצה להיפרד ממך, בוא תהיה איתי, אני אהיה איתך. לא, אתה לא יכול ללכת, אל תלך עכשיו, תן לי עוד 5 דקות לפני שתעזוב לקרב. אתה זוכר את אמא מחייכת, זה לא קורה עכשיו, היא תישאר איתך תמיד, גם אם אתה לא שב, גם אם אתה לא שב. הלב שלי כואב, הראש שלי לא תופס, כי בלב אתה שלם, בראש אתה עוד צוחק. אתה עוד מחייך, אתה אומר שלום, שלום של באת, שלום של טוב, לא שלום של אין עוד יום. לא, אתה לא יכול ללכת, אל תלך עכשיו, תן לי עוד 5 דקות לפני שתעזוב לקרב. אתה זוכר את אבא מחייך וזה לא קורה עכשיו, הוא יישאר איתך תמיד, גם אם אתה לא שב, גם אם אתה לא שב. כולם בוכים עכשיו, אנחנו נשאר איתך תמיד, גם אם אתה לא שב, גם אם אתה לא שב.
We hear so much on the media. There's so much on the media. They're obsessed with the people dying in Gaza. Those are not innocent civilians. There are some innocent civilians, very, very few. By and large, those are individuals who always have supported Hamas. They elected Hamas in a free election that Jimmy Carter certified, because Carter's an anti-Semite. He went down to the Middle East to certify the 2006 election so that the world would hear that the Arabs had voted like Americans, democratic. They're just like us Americans. And the whole idea was that his intent was to hurt Israel by certifying that election and saying that Hamas is the legitimate representative. But it is important, therefore, to remember just the opposite of what he meant for. He certified, he proved that Hamas represents the will of that population. It is not an innocent population. There have been so many films in the previous 5 wars that Israel had with Hamas. Each time Israel would reach a ceasefire, what the anti-Semites always demand of the Jews. Whenever we're winning, they want a ceasefire. Whenever we're losing, they stay out of it. This is going on for 2,000 years. This did not start yesterday. And in the current conflict, when they talk about the innocent Palestinians or the innocent Gazans, I think back to those prior 5 wars. After each ceasefire, there'd be massive celebrations in Gaza. We won. We won. We forced the Israelis. We killed Israelis, and they've given up. They could not stop Hamas. They could not they said they'd wipe out Hamas, and 5 times in a row they had to give up. And they had to accept that Hamas is going to be there. And they would celebrate that's this general population. And on the other hand, when Israel would kill somebody, the general population would come out in mourning. They're not an innocent population. As I look at these soldiers, these are kids who wanted to, or even adults, even older kids, even in their 50s, people who wanted to be with their families, go to work, have their children, and have their parents and live their lives and have their spouses. and have their marriages and live their lives. And they didn't want any of this. And they answered the call to duty. Any one of them is more precious to me than 20,000 in Gaza. And of the 20,000 statistic, God alone knows how many really have been killed, because the numbers are coming from Hamas. And number two, God alone knows how many of those who have been killed are themselves Hamas terrorists. They don't separate that. So it's important. Part of the class is teaching and reinforcing and understanding, so that when we go out there, we deal with other people, we understand what's going on. And and you'll see, there are people out there who really, really hate us. And today's class, there also are people who are on our side, very much so, including non-Jewish people. And of course, the other thing, to bring them home. Until every one of those hostages comes home, there's no basis to feel bad for anybody in Gaza. They've had 2.5 months to give back all the hostages. They don't want to get bombed. Pressure the Hamas to give the hostages back. Who does that?
אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. אחינו כל בית ישראל, אחינו כל בית ישראל, הנתונים בצרה ובשביה, העומדים בין בים ובין ביבשה. המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה לרווחה, ומאפלה לאורה ומשעבוד לגאולה, השתה בגלה ובזמן קריב. המקום ירחם עליהם ויוציאם מצרה לרווחה, ומאפלה לאורה ומשעבוד לגאולה, השתה בגלה ובזמן קריב.
As you know, I remind you that it's a matter.
Holy Bible, Jeremiah, chapter 29, verse 7.
As I remind you, it's a commandment in the from Yirmiyahu that we're
And be working for
pray.
the peace of the land to which I have.
We're supposed to always pray for the place where we live, that we are, as Jewish people, our home is Israel. But because of the diaspora, the dispersion, because of our sins, the temple was destroyed. And we are in exile, many of us. Some taken prisoners, many of us living in freedom. And we have to pray at all times to the peace of the land in which we live. And so before we do Hatikva, and we also welcome many non-Jewish supporters of Israel who watch this either today or find it on YouTube. So we now start with the national anthem and then go forward with the rest of our program as well. And here we go.
Now our first performance, Archuleta.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets regular, the bloodthirsty midnight, getting through the night, that our flag was still there. Oh, scared as that star-spangled banner yet waved o'er the land of the free and the home of the
I think we should sing this. Let's try this. Kolor balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homiya ulfatei mizrach kadima in the Zion, Sophia. Oh Lord, Tikvateinu, Atikva ar Shnot Alpayim, Liot Am Hoshi. Be'artzeinu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim. One more time. Kol balevav penima nefesh Yehudi homiya ufatei mizrach kadima ayin Zion Sophia. Oh Lord, Tikvateinu, Atikva bar Shnot Alpayim, Liot Am Hoshi be'artzeinu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim. Oh Lord, Tikvateinu, Atikva bar Shnot Alpayim, Liot Am Hoshi be'artzeinu Eretz Zion Yerushalayim, Liot Am Hoshi be'artzeinu
local state senator is demanding a public investigation into a Dickinson ISD teacher who he says targeted an Israeli student in the classroom.
And Eli Ruiz tells us what happened and how the district is responding tonight.
State Senator Mays Middleton says what happened at Dickinson High School was unacceptable.
It was egregious.
He's talking about an incident that happened on November 16th when an English teacher allegedly greeted the classroom with a statement on the board.
It said, "No justice, no peace, justice for Palestine."
Middleton says the teacher singled out a 14-year-old Israeli student, asking her several questions about being from Israel and her family.
This is a big deal. This Jewish student was targeted because of her faith and because of her nationality, and it's wrong.
Middleton wrote this open letter to the district, which he posted on Facebook, demanding the school investigate what happened. We reached out to Dickinson ISD. They tell us the teacher's conduct was not in compliance with Dickinson's guidelines and teaching practices. And the day the incident occurred, the teacher was suspended. The teacher has since resigned.
There's not been beheadings of babies and rapings.
And while you have anti-Semites in some of the schools, this is a brief 1.5-minute compilation. It has become a thing to try to bring resolutions in city councils around the country. At least they try to condemn Israel if they're in Oakland or Berkeley, in that crazy part of Northern California, the godforsaken area, Berkeley, Oakland, San Francisco. But around the country, there have been efforts, particularly up and down California. But I'm going to briefly bring to your attention something in Knoxville, Tennessee. Efforts around the country by Hamas supporters, anti-Israel people. And this is a compilation of some of the worst of what happened at Oakland. Oakland did pass such a resolution. Most places, the resolutions get voted down.
Beheadings of babies and rapings. Israel murdered their own people on October 7th.
You got that. That is an important, that's an important talking point you should know about, that they're now going around saying they waited a couple of weeks for it to die down from October 7th. They now claim that Israel are the ones who killed all the people.
Calling Hamas a terrorist organization is ridiculous, racist, and plays into genocidal propaganda that is flooding our media and that we should be doing everything possible to combat. I support the—
So it's racist to call Hamas terrorist. Again, this is Oakland. It's the Sodom and Gomorrah of today.
The right of Palestinians to resist occupation, including through Hamas, the armed wing of the unified Palestinian resistance.
As an Arab, asking with this context to condemn Hamas is very anti-Arab racist.
The notion that this was a massacre of Jews is a fabricated narrative. Many of those killed on October 7th,
Thank you, ma'am. Your time is up.
Including children, were killed by the IDF. An amendment condemning Hamas is bald propaganda meant to—
Thank you. Your time is up.
To hear them complain about Hamas violence is like listening to a wife beater complain when his wife finally stands up and fights back.
Question. Did anyone else notice that those who oppose this resolution are old white supremacists?
There's been a lot of atrocity propaganda.
Okay, just let that sink in for a moment. Old white supremacists. I may be old, I may be white. I'm not a white supremacist. The anti-Semites, these people are just Jew haters. And
Now ranging from claims of beheaded babies to mass rape.
Hamas is not a terrorist organization just because the U.S. and Israel deems it so. Hamas is a resistance organization that is fighting for the liberation of Palestinian people and their land.
In a rare move, like we have not seen in almost a decade, a Knoxville City Council member offered a resolution about a fight overseas. At-large City Council member Amelia Parker asked the council to—
notice where this red spot is. This is normal America. This is crazy America. That's crazy America. This flyover country is America. This is where you'll find support for Israel. Don't believe the media when they tell you that Christians are Christians are the are bigger supporters in some ways than many Jews. Plenty of liberal and left-wing Jews already attacking Israel. This Rabbi Sharon Brous from Los Angeles was in the Wall Street Journal attacking Israel just this week. Already she's an extreme leftist, radical leftist. And here's middle America, so-called flyover country.
Support a collective call for a permanent ceasefire in a war 6,000 miles away between Hamas and Israel. A current temporary ceasefire remains in place tonight.
There's no second. The motion fails for lack of a second. Next item, please.
Okay, we got that? Nobody seconded the motion to criticize Israel and to call for a ceasefire. And then the crowd in the room, and Knoxville is not a heavy Jewish community. I've been there. That's Eastern Tennessee. That's where Dolly Parton is based with her Dollywood, her amusement park for the Knoxville area. It's called Dollywood. It's like a Disneyland for Eastern Tennessee. They're pro-Israel.
The resolution failed to move ahead. None of the other council members offered their support. It marked the climax to a divisive debate playing out in the meeting and on social media about the language of that resolution as well as the overall message.
We're here in Kfar Aza with Governor Mike Huckabee. Shalom.
And now some voices of support for Israel, all different kinds of voices. I wanted to do that today, just a compilation. After hearing a compilation of voices who would destroy Israel, a compilation of voices who strongly support Israel. Important to remember, I try to bring some into every one of our sessions, the ones with Dr. Phil, and I've had a number of them, and here's a compilation of some.
Shalom. This is your first time here. You heard the news.
And as you know, Mike Huckabee was governor of Arkansas, and has been a presidential candidate, unsuccessful in some of the Republican primary years, but not this year.
You saw the videos, but being here is totally different.
It's worse than I could have imagined. And the unimaginable horror that these people have been through, no human being should ever be subjected to the level of atrocity and savagery that the people of Israel have experienced. And I want the whole world to understand what happened here and who did it. And let's not pretend that there are two sides, because there aren't. There's a side of good and there's a side of evil. What happened to the Jewish people here was evil, and there's no other explanation for it.
And it seemed at the beginning that the whole world was with us the day after. Yeah. But then a day passed, and it's getting more challenging for Israel.
And it shouldn't be. We need to make sure that people understand there's still hostages in Gaza from 25 nations, including the United States. Hamas didn't take those hostages because they were trying to do some humanitarian effort. They did them as bargaining chips so that they can try to buy themselves more time. I want every one of those hostages to be able to come home to their families. But I want Israel to have the full support of the world to fully prosecute this war, to eradicate these animals who did this to completely innocent people.
Now, you mentioned innocent, and one of the things that was emphasized today is the fact that there was a second wave of so-called citizens of Gaza. Tell us about that and how you thought about that.
People need to remember, and innocent lives are being lost in Gaza. We understand that, but they're being lost not because of Israel, but because Hamas created an extraordinary level of absolute chaos. And the other reason is that we need to remember that the people in Gaza voted to put Hamas in power. What happened with Hamas is largely due to the vote of people. It was Barack Obama who once said, elections have consequences, and they sure do. And I'm looking at the consequences of an election where Hamas was elected to lead Gaza, which could be one of the most wonderful resorts on earth. And it is a hellhole because they took every dime that was given to them for their people. And they built tunnels, and they built bombs, and they bought bullets. Not to help their people, but to kill other people they didn't even know.
And when we're talking about the second wave, we're talking about Gazans who came in, not affiliated with Hamas, and looted while people were being murdered next to them.
not only murdered, not only were they looting, they were looting with bodies strewn about, and they were going in and taking food and items from the homes of people whose bodies were laying before them. They had to step over them in order to loot the homes. What kind of person does that?
Now, when we're talking about the U.S.-Israel relations, it began with very powerful statements from President Biden, and there's still support that we're feeling today, but there is a feeling that the pressure is beginning. How do you see the U.S. policy towards what's going on today?
Well, I hope the policy continues to be unequivocal support for Israel. We don't need to tell Israel how to prosecute this war. They're the only ones who need to make that decision. I don't think we would have enjoyed having other countries dictate to us on December the 8th of 1941 how we should deal with the Japanese right after Pearl Harbor. And this is no time for anyone to be giving Israel some instructions or lessons on what they should do. They're in a fight for their lives. They're not just fighting. This is not a revenge war. This is a war to prevent what we're looking at in this place from happening again. And Israel not only has a right, Israel has a responsibility that this never happens again. And that's why I hope the world comes together and says, we stand with Israel.
Minneapolis used to be one of the greatest cities in America.
Oh, yeah.
And it is the perfect example of the Great Replacement. A city that was safe and was peaceful, and then you bring in a country are Jews. And I think that's starting to happen. Wouldn't you agree, Michelle? More and more people in the Jewish community say, we don't want them here. We don't want these people in our country. You were just in Israel.
Well,
tell us about it.
I was just in Israel, and the Jewish people are extremely tolerant people. They have the Museum of Tolerance. And so they bend over backwards to try and help and accommodate. I was living and working in Kibbutz Be'eri when I was an 18-year-old. I just went there last week. And the people in Be'eri tend to be more liberals. And they were the ones that would go and get Gazans and take them to the hospital and take care of them. They were shocked. They were more shocked than anyone in Israel that this happened with Gaza because they'd extended an olive branch. They were loving the people in Gaza. They were floored. The people that they'd invited to eat in their homes, that they had advocated for, came over, slit their throats, killed their children, stole everything, raped the women. It's more egregious than anyone can imagine.
This is a very important point that Michelle is making. So the people who chose to live right on the Gaza border, they did so as a statement saying we can all coexist.
Yes.
In fact, there was one man where he would fly kites. You know this story? He would fly these kites saying that we need peace. We need this tension between Gaza and Israel to end. And he would fly kites on a specific holiday. It happened to be that Saturday. And literally the kites would say shalom, peace. So as he's flying his kites, as he has had Arab Muslim Gazans in his home, they come and murder his whole family. They come and kill them all. He says, peace, peace, I love you guys. And they say, boom, boom, boom.
And that's what happened. That is the reality of what happened. They came in through the front gate. They cut through various pieces of fencing. But they came in about 4,000 terrorists. That's the first wave. But what people don't know is that the people of Gaza, the so-called innocent Palestinians, came, thousands of them, waves. They came back, they brought sticks, garden hose, they beheaded people, raped women, and they stole everything out of these houses and took it back into Gaza. And so all the good neighbor, all the money, Israel supplies all of the electricity, all of the water in Gaza, everything they'd done for them was turned around and used against Israel. Used to defeat them, used to kill them. And one thing I saw is that whether you live in the north or the south of Israel, whether you're religious or secular, everyone agreed and united. We can no longer embrace this being Mr. Nice Guy to the people who are in Gaza, because this is over 1,000 years of mothers teaching their children, grow up and kill Jews.
Mark Rothenberg and Mark Thompson.
I did have Mark on last week, and I'm just going to do that again because he's a member of the shul, and he really spoke for all of us so amazingly.
My name is Jeffrey Katz, and to paraphrase the last words of Daniel Pearl before he was beheaded by Islamic jihadists, my father was a Jew, my mother was a Jew, I am a Jew who lives in this city's Santa Ana Ward 3. I'm going to address you, Councilmember Fan, because I know you're struggling with.
And again, this is what's going on around the country with these city council meetings. Even here in Irvine, there was a city council meeting. We're fighting with the city council right now. We have an interesting legal fight that's going on to prevent them from moving forward with a resolution. Not that any of these resolutions are going to matter in the end. Israel can blow up Gaza despite what some local city council decides in California. But this is going on, for those of you that are not out here and not involved in that, all over the country. And there are passionate people making their business to go to these city council meetings, talking for Israel, to counter the lies that these animals are putting forth about Hamas being that if you're against Hamas, you're racist. It's unbelievable.
With the language of this resolution. So did the Democratic Party of Orange County, and thus it rejected the resolution last night. You will attempt to contort yourself and logic to appease everyone, but you cannot. The resolution accuses Israel of ethnic cleansing, yet in 1948, there were 156,000 Arabs in Israel who were all given citizenship. Today, there are 2.2 million Arabs in Israel. Yet the Jewish population in surrounding countries controlled by Islam has gone from 850,000 in 1948 to just 12,000 today. The resolution speaks of genocide. Yet the Israelis drop leaflets, they create humanitarian corridors, they send out messages on X before bombing Hamas. The original charter says the day of judgment will not come about until Muslims fight Jews and kill them. From the river to the sea, intifada. You tell me who's committing genocide. Jews pray for peace, Hamas for death. The emblem of Hamas and Hezbollah contains swords and assault rifles. The emblem of Israel has olive branches. I appeal to you, Councilmember Fan, as a lawyer to a lawyer. Foreign affairs is not within the jurisdiction of the municipality. If the sponsors of this resolution want to make horrible accusations against Israel, follow the model of the OC Board of Supervisors, issue your letters, and speak your piece. To these sponsors, you are not the moral arbiters of my city.
Your time is up. Next speaker, Mark Rothenberg, followed by Mark Thompson and Allison Thompson.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. After 20 plus years of representing real estate developers and cities and being a law professor, I've come to the city within which I love, the city within which my family decided to build a home. And Ms. Lopez, your district, or your ward, and I'm going to use the following words I never thought I would have to say. I am a Jew, and I'm not afraid of you, and I'm not afraid of this intellectually dishonest and morally bankrupt resolution. I am not afraid of the individuals that have come here, many of whom do not live in the city, but even those who do are holding up signs, giving shade to Hamas and the violence and horror that it perpetrated. And ultimately, what I would say to you, Councilman Vasquez, and what I would say to you, Councilman Hernandez, is congratulations. Look at the unity that you've brought us. Look at what you've done. 3+ hours of conversation about this issue. We are no closer to a solution. And at the end of the day, have you addressed the giant mound of dirt in downtown? Have you addressed housing affordability? Have you addressed our crumbling infrastructure? Have you addressed our demoralized police department? Have you addressed the fact that we don't have a permanent city manager? And this is what you decide to do with your time. For shame. I'm going to address a couple of the comments that have been raised tonight, but there are so many I don't even know where to begin. That the Gazans don't have electricity and water? Why? Why do they depend on Israel for water and electricity? Could it possibly be because Hamas steals resources from them and instead of building water pipelines and desalination plants, builds terror tunnels from which it can launch attacks into Israel and kill innocent men, women, and children and rape? Where is the condemnation in your resolution for rape? By the way, where is the condemnation in your resolution against Egypt, which has sealed its border with the Palestinians and doesn't give them free access into the greater Arab world? Where is your condemnation for the Assad regime? By the way, if the Assad regime was in charge of Israel, there would be no Gaza tomorrow. We wouldn't be having this conversation. Israel is a just army, but this is an impossible situation. I don't hope to convince you. I would just ask you to withdraw this resolution.
Mark Thompson.
Focus on city business.
Next speaker, Mark.
I want you to know you are losing me, and you are losing many, many.
Is the loudest I can get the sound. You may have to turn up your own sound if it's not loud enough. This is basically a group of very liberal Jews in Boston who are giving a hard, what's his name, Ohana, a member of the Knesset who was in Boston speaking to the Jewish community, trying to explain to them what's going on, a very liberal Jewish community. And this woman is talking and saying, I want you to know you're losing me and you're losing our community based on the way you're fighting this war. And she's talking to Amir Ohana, one of the major members of the Likud party. Start again.
To know you are losing me, and you are losing many, many, many people in the Jewish community. I live there. I love the country. I cannot look the other way when 3 Israeli teenagers are brutally murdered, and the response is to kill 2,300 Palestinians. You are going to lose us, and I want to know what you are doing to make peace with the Palestinians.
I want to tell you about another woman. Her name was Golda. She was the 4th Prime Minister of Israel and a very wise woman. And she said, when the Arabs would lower their guns, there will be no more war. When the Israelis will lower their guns, there will be no more Israel. War is horrible. War is horrible. I lost friends. I lost family. Mickey lost 2 brothers. War is horrible. But to say that the response for the murder of the 3 youngsters was the killing of 2,300 Jews is to ignore the thousands and thousands of rockets thrown from Gaza to Israeli citizens. Each and every one of them is targeted to kill us. And if I will have to choose between losing more lives of Israelis, whether they are civilians or soldiers, or losing you, I will sadly, sorrowfully rather lose you.
Every day, skirmishes, killings, extrajudicial building.
This is a British talk show, and they've got the former Palestinian, there's no such thing as Palestine, the former Arab ambassador from the Arab Authority in Judea, Samaria. What they call the Palestine Authority. There's no such thing as Palestine. So he was the former ambassador of those Arabs to England. And he's speaking now as they're talking about the Hamas-Israel war. And of course, he also is an important exponent of this argument that it was the Israeli army who killed all the people, the 1,200 people on October 7th, not Arabs. And it's just, they're not only not ashamed of lying, but even when there are facts and evidence, they'll lie. They don't mind. They lie. It's unbelievable. It's like, there's no shame. It's like, oh, you have evidence? I changed my story. I'm sorry. No, they just stick with it.
Settlements, and I don't need to go into the ugly.
So was it a legitimate attack on October the 7th to kill women and children and rape them?
Well, there is nothing legitimate Is occupation legitimate?
No, I'm talking about. Well, let's just talk about October the 7th. They didn't occupy, did they? They left in 2005.
Yes. October 7th is a mere reaction to an ongoing onslaught of the.
So that was a legitimate operation to kill babies and rape women.
No,
no, you're right. It wasn't, was it?
No.
No, good.
No, don't put words into my mouth.
I didn't. You just answered it.
All I am saying, basically, violence is bad, and violence breeds violence.
Not really, is it? There's collateral damage, and there's going and decapitating and raping women and then killing them. That's different to collateral damage. Can't you see the difference?
Could we let the ambassador reply?
Well, not if he's going to talk.
No, come on.
Crap.
Ambassador, you can't. You must listen.
No. I want to answer him because we didn't see decapitated baby.
Oh, do you want to see that?
We didn't see that.
You saw the women being paraded around the town, didn't you? And all the citizens spitting on them.
They were running from what happened. They were not, and those were taken by Israeli military soldiers.
What?
So are you? Hang on.
Let's not distort.
The woman on the back of the truck. They were all spitting at the Israelis. That was the Israelis, was it? What are you saying? Did you see that? The woman in the truck being spat on by all the residents and citizens of Gaza.
Spat by whom? Spat by whom?
By all the citizens in Gaza. Did you not see them? All of them? Yeah.
No, I didn't.
Oh, you should watch that, being as you're the ambassador.
Can we listen? I'm trying to find a calm way.
You need to watch that after this.
That's not the way to conduct an interview.
Oh, you tell me how. Tell me what I should ask you. You ask yourself the questions.
You ask the questions about.
All right, now you do
people who have been killed.
Stop it.
You know, the way to conduct an interview. This is an assault, and it is not really professional of trying to put me in a situation where I am not given the chance to answer you.
All right,
you just want to put words into my mouth, and
nobody. You be quiet for a minute. Nobody wishes to put any words in your mouth. But
I thought you were Jewish.
Ash, he is.
I'm not a Zionist, but it seems you are a Zionist.
All right, you don't like those two.
Okay, so Zionists are. Would you say Zionists and Hamas are really the same sort of people who really don't want any kind of peace and hate each other? That nothing can be done until there has been a total war and one side has won. Is that what you're telling me?
No, what I'm telling you is the fact that if Israel wants to get Hamas, let them get Hamas. That's fine.
Okay. But how do they? Just a minute. How do they do that?
But you don't. But I don't know how to.
But how do they do that when Hamas
indiscriminately?
Nobody kills indiscriminately in a war, but unfortunately people get killed.
How do you explain 20,000 people being killed?
Because it's just a very low ratio.
But Hamas,
about 7,000-8,000 terrorists. And that's Hamas figures you're quoting.
Just a minute.
That's Hamas figures you're quoting.
Hamas are fighting using the Palestinian people as shields. They're fighting within that area. They're putting those people in harm's way. Listen, in the Second World War,
they're shooting them.
Millions of innocent people sadly were killed because when there is a war, innocent people die. I mean, 3 Israelis were killed by Israelis today.
I mean, it's a very
it's
house to house, it's door to door, and there could be explosives or Hamas on the end of it. So and they've got tunnels on top of that.
Manuel, what I'm trying to get to is there must be a way that this can be stopped, because the Israeli armed forces are not going to stop until Hamas surrender. So why don't people like you tell Hamas that they have to surrender? They are a terrorist organization.
Release the hostages.
And that will be it.
Let me tell you.
Yeah.
If you justify the killing of 20,000 people and the destruction and decimation of the entire Gaza with a war crimes that have been every day inflicted upon the Palestinians, that you are, the Israeli soldiers are killing Hamas, then you know that Hamas are operating from tunnels. They're not operating from hospitals and from.
Well, the tunnels are under the hospital, and they come up the tunnel.
No, it was proven that it was nothing in the Shifa hospital, and the entire media system.
Are you saying tonight, Ambassador, that the Israeli soldiers are just out there shooting innocent people? Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
And are you telling? Yes. Well, you're talking rubbish, really, absolute rubbish, because you know that's not true.
Well, it might be true, but it'll be by accident. They even shot 3 Israelis, their own people, so it will happen by accident.
Do you think nobody is attacking
today,
the Israelis?
What happened in the church? What happened in the church today in Gaza when they have shot a woman with her daughter?
I don't know that one.
Listen,
I haven't seen it. I watched that, and you watched the lady in the truck being spat at in Gaza.
Stop it a minute.
We'll both do our homework.
Women and children is shooting
Both of
Hamas.
you, for one moment, listen. You're both getting very aerated. This is exactly what is happening on the other side. The Israelis, listen, the Israelis were attacked by a bunch of thugs, okay? And they killed innocent people. They responded and retaliated. They are now at war. They are at war with terrorists who actually probably frighten you. I don't know whether you're frightened of them and they're telling you what to say or not. But if they
they would do, because you're from Fatah, are you? You're
if
Fatah.
they put down their arms and surrendered, this could all stop tomorrow. So why don't people like you ask them to do that?
First of all, I'm not Hamas, and I'm a Palestinian diplomat who fights for the cause of the Palestinian right for self-determination. And I was the one who accepts the two-state solution, living side by side with Israel.
Right.
We are a democratic entity. We have nothing to do with extremism.
But you don't have elections.
Just 1 minute.
No.
That's a bit of a problem being a democracy, isn't it? You've got the elections, isn't it?
Yes.
You forgot
Israel stopped the elections in East Jerusalem. That's why we don't have elections.
Okay, calm.
Right.
Listen, will you actually say on the program tonight, I ask a lot of people in your position to say this and they won't, do you admit that Hamas are a bunch of murdering terrorists that you would like to see out of the West Bank and out of Gaza?
Hamas is an integral part of the Palestinian people. They are a militant group. And there
are a lot of scumbags. I hate to be. That is the most ridiculous thing I've heard. They are. You're scared, aren't you? You are scared to condemn them.
I'm not scared.
You are scared to condemn people who committed this. You disgust me, Ambassador. I thought you were a reasonable, decent person.
You disgust me with your questions. 20,000 people have been killed and you never...
And that is terrible, and nobody is saying...
Well, actually, even if you go with the Hamas figures, that's actually a very low amount compared to the... It's about 1-to-1 ratio of terrorists to innocent people. So even on Hamas figures, that's very low. And let's face it, Hamas figures are a load of...
if I might say, a very good diplomat. Because, you know, there is a war.
So do we.
Good night. Thank you for your call. You want to stop it?
Bye. Don't be a stranger.
We don't need your interview.
Get off my show now. Go.
Go.
See ya.
Go to hell.
Off now.
Or is it au revoir?
Hell.
No, I'm not having somebody like you say those things.
That felt good. British, there are good people. There are good people there. There are a lot of good people. Not enough, but there are a lot of good people who won't stand for it. There are a lot of people who speak for Israel. I'm going to start that again because people from the South need to have captions for people like... Just for a moment, this is also a shul program, and I wanted to share. In a moment, we'll have another rabbi, but this is a little bit off topic, but just recent speech by the chief rabbi, the Sephardic chief rabbi of Israel, Rabbi Yitzchak Yoseph, the son of a former chief rabbi of Israel, HaRav Zamir Yoseph. And I wanted to share this. Again, this is a bit off topic for 2 minutes, and yet it's very much on topic for all of us to think about.
לפני כמה חודשים, סידרו לי פגישה עם פוטין. אתם מכירים אותו מזה פוטין, נשיא רוסיה. אני חשבתי פגישה, כמה תמונות, כמה צילומים, כמה דקות. לא, הופתעתי. הוא ישב איתי 1.25 שעות. איפה יש לו זמן? 1.25 שעות. והוא כל הזמן הוא דיבר, אוהב לדבר. דיבר. אני לא יודע רוסית. והוא לא יודע לשון הקודש, היה שגריר שלנו של ישראל, הוא תרגם בינינו. שמעו אותו מה הוא אמר לי, לא 1.25 שעות אגיד לכם, חבל על הזמן, אני אקצר. הוא מסביר לי מה זה תרבות יוון, מה זה תרבות מצרים, מה זה תרבות רומא, מסביר, מרחיב. אני לא מבין, אני שומע אותו, מנענע בראשי. מה זה שיעור בהיסטוריה? כל זה מספר לי. אחר כך פתאום פונה אליי פוטין, ככה בהפתעה. כבוד הרב, תגיד לי, איך אתה מסביר את זה? כל התרבויות, כולם נמחקו. מי מכיר תרבות יוון? מה זה? תרבות רומא. תרבות מצרים. מה זה? לא יודעים מה זה תרבות יותר. אתם, העם היהודי, אתם נשארתם. אתה יכול להסביר לי למה אתם נשארתם? כולם נמחקו כל התרבויות? הרב, תן לי הסבר לזה. וקראתי להסביר לו, כמו ארגון הערכים, ככה להסביר לו. אבל, הרב, אל תענה לי, אני אענה לך. פוטין אומר לי. מה אומר לי? תשמעו אותו רבותיי, זה נשיא גוי, הוא לא יהודי, הוא לא בעל תשובה, כן? הוא נשיא גוי, שחצי העולם, רוסיה. מה הוא אומר לי, פוטין? הוא אומר לי, אתם נשארתם בזכות הרבנים שלכם והתורה שלכם. הרבנים הולכים, מפיצים תורה, זכות אתם נשארתם. אני הייתי המום. לשמוע דבר כזה מנשיא גוי, הוא יודע את האמת, הוא יודע על האמת. נשארתם בזכות התורה שלנו. עם ישראל, רק בזכות התורה שלנו. לכן כולנו נתחזק בתורה שלנו. זכות התורה יבנה בית המקדש במהרה בימינו. התורה תגן עליכם, שכולם יהיה בריאות איתנה, נורא מעליה, חוט ימים ושנים. זכה לגאולה שלמה במהרה בימינו, אמן ואמן.
חמאס פרסם סרטון שלאחר שתכנן.
Last week I had a very brief as today, just a different one today, from HaRav Zamir Cohen. Last week, he told the story of how Shabbat saved the lives of a family on October 7, inasmuch as the Arabs who had been working in their kibbutz and who had kept very, very comprehensive records for Hamas to know exactly whom to kill, which rooms, where they sleep, where the dogs are, everything, that because this particular couple found that the kibbutz did not keep Shabbat, so they would go away every week on Shabbat to spend Shabbat with Shomrei Shabbat, people who observe. Well, the lady I had mentioned last week, and the lady was so long in her pregnancy that they couldn't go away that Shabbat. They had to stay home. Now, when the Arabs attacked every apartment and every house in that kibbutz, they skipped over that house, and they couldn't understand why until they realized that the Arabs who had been working there keeping records had put down that this particular couple always goes away on Saturday. Therefore, don't waste time going into their house looking for them. They won't be there. And they were there, but no one went into their house. And Rav Cohen was talking about other stories. Some of you may remember this from several weeks ago in a different class I taught in the middle of the week. And then he's got an additional one. They're both very short. It's a minute 47, but two fascinating stories. Hamas took films of everything they did. So they filmed the terror attack on this community. They broke into 22 communities near Gaza. And they entered and they successfully got in and they slaughtered Jews. They slaughtered. They took hostages, even little children. But only 2 kibbutzim among the 22, they did not enter. Kibbutz Saad and Kibbutz Alumim. And in their film, they explain why they did not manage to get into those, or why they did not go into those 2 kibbutzim to murder as well. When you come to the front entrance of this kibbutz, they seal off their fencing on Shabbat to prevent cars from driving in on Shabbat. These 2 kibbutzim Shomrei Shabbat.
שערי הברזל הענקיים מוגפים נועלים את הקיבוצים לכניסת רכבים במהלך השבת.
They seal the steel fences every Erev Shabbat.
סובבים על עקבותיהם הולכים למקומות אחרים. כי ישמרה שבת, אל ישמרני.
There's a song you may know from Shabbat songs. כי ישמרה שבת, אל ישמרני. which literally means if I, or when I, or as I keep Shabbat, observe Shabbat, God watches over me. Yeshmera Shabbat, Kel Yishmereini, Otilio Me'ad, Beno Veni, Otilio Me'ad, Beno Veni. When I observe Shabbat, God watches over me. Second story, he got a phone call, HaRav Zamir Cohen got a phone call from a young woman who explained that she often would leave her southern kibbutz in the Negev to go to Beitar, which is closer to Jerusalem, to spend Shabbat there. Because again, her kibbutz, likewise, everybody did not keep Shabbat, and she became a Ba'alat Teshuvah. She became religious. So she would go up to Beitar in Jerusalem every Shabbat, like this other lady we talked about last week. So he got a phone call from her. She'd come up every Shabbat to attend a mini seminar at that location, at their particular midrash, Beit Midrash for women, Midrash at Elisheva it's called. She would hear, she'd go to these seminars, and it made her stronger in her religiosity, and she'd go back home. Said to her husband, I want to keep Shabbat. So she started becoming insistent, I want to start keeping Shabbat. And the husband, he went along, but he wasn't like totally on the program. And then a couple of months after she started keeping Shabbat, and you go up to Beitar for Shabbat, he said, I heard there's going to be this amazing all-night dance rave festival this Saturday night. Can we just make one exception and go there? Said, but I've taken upon myself the observance of Shabbat. I can't go. They had an argument, and at the end of the day, he agreed to stay home with her. And today they're healthy and alive and no traumas, no injury. Every Jew should take upon himself and herself a personal elevation with Shabbat. If you don't observe Shabbat, keep a little bit. Even for someone who finds Shabbat so hard, so one Saturday, just go without the telephone. Just 1 week, don't travel. 1 week, don't use electricity. Go up another level, till you find you can keep Shabbat. And dedicate your observance of Shabbat to the army of Israel and for the success. Make a deal with God that I'm keeping Shabbat in honor of the army of Israel, that they should be blessed and that Israel should have victory. And that the hostages should come home. May we have a full redemption. Okay, so this is serious stuff. So I've been sharing with you serious stuff. Jews have a sense of humor. You know that. The fact that you think I'm a rabbi shows you have a sense of humor. So Jews can laugh. I wanted to show you two little shorts. There are two groups that promote short videos, like 3-4 minute videos that they've been posting on Twitter. They're in Hebrew, so I'll have to explain it. But in case you're wondering, what's the mindset of Jews in Israel? I came across these in preparing today's class, and I was blown away. One of them is a group called Bardak, and we saw them about a week or two ago on my Hanukkah program. They're a little short skit on Twitter of the guy who wanted to eat a jelly donut and tried to stand up with all his power not to eat that jelly donut, and talked about how the jelly donut just couldn't have control. Well, anyway, this is whenever the Arabs shoot rockets into Israel, sirens go off and everyone runs either into a safe room in their own home. Nowadays, ever since a certain date, all apartments that are built in Israel include one room, like every other room, only with reinforced concrete walls to prevent shrapnel from coming in, a safe room, so that people no longer, if you buy into a newer home, people no longer have to run into these miklatim, into these shelters that are built specifically as like bomb shelters. Instead, they have their own safe room. Just like in California, there's like nothing you can do in California for which there's not a regulation to protect you. So, for example, if you put in a new toilet, the toilet can only flush a certain amount compared to the toilets before they made the regulation, to save water. Or if you want an electric light bulb, you can only buy certain kinds of light bulbs in order to not generate more, whatever it is, the light bulbs that the old ones did, and so on and so forth. So there are lots of regulations in California, which the Jews who now live in Texas, Florida, and Arizona can tell you what they were all like when they lived in California. In the same way, Israel has regulations to deal with Hamas. So they have the safe rooms in the apartments, but the buildings that were built before they passed that regulation, instead they would have miklatim, shelters. So everybody, this skit or this film short takes place in a bomb shelter. In the bottom of the house, it's an apartment building with a homeowners association, and the shelter is a public room in which everybody knows that if they hear the siren, they go down. So here we go. Let me get it up again. Just okay. Then to hit that button, hit this, that, get it off the screen. Here we go. Let's just get it started. It's the middle of the night. I hate this. They should flatten Gaza into rubble. Next guy's saying they should turn Gaza into a parking lot. It doesn't pay to make it to bomb it into a parking lot. The whole thing in Gaza is underground anyway. So make it an underground parking lot. I can't stand this. They drive me crazy. I forgot to turn off in my apartment. I have like a little thing that you turn on or off to turn the hot water on. Unlike, let's say, a big boiler that many of us have here, there they might have in each apartment their own mini boiler. I forgot to turn off my boiler. Okay, since everybody's here now, anybody want to buy my refrigerator? It's like it's brand new, almost. Schwartz, it's a long time. I finally see you. You always avoid me. I've been waiting to catch up with you in person. You're behind on your payments to the homeowners association. There's a war going on outside. That's what you're worried about. Yeah, but you're 3 years behind on your payments to the homeowners association. But first there was the coronavirus that tied me up.
זה מה שמעניין אותך?
But this is what you're worried about.
מישהו רוצה לקנות מכונת כביסה?
Anybody want to buy my washing machine?
כמה זה עולה? אבל אל תסחוט אותי, אה?
בשבילך 1,500?
Don't squeeze me. Okay, for you, 1,500 shekels.
רק בגלל שאנחנו מכירים.
מה?
Only because I know you. What?
במחיר הזה אני קונה חדש בחשמל הקרן.
For that, I can go to Chashmal HaKaren, a particular store, and buy it brand new for that same price.
נכון, חשמל הקרן הכי זולים.
This is true. Chashmal HaKaren is the cheapest, least expensive. But with me, you have the experience of buying from me.
אצלי, יש חוויית קנייה.
חוויית קנייה?
The experience of buying from you?
מה, לא כיף לך איתי?
But you don't like me.
זכריה, תרפה. כל מלחמה...
Zachariah, get yourself together. Every time there's a war, you're trying to sell, you stock all your used appliances down here in the bomb shelter, and every time there's a siren, you try to sell me on your stuff.
חדש אתה מנסה למכור לי את זה. עוד ממלחמת המפרץ.
נו, אז הגיע מה שתקנה.
תגידו, חשמל הקרן זה חנות? אני חשבתי שזה גמח. כאלה מחירים. תגיד, איפה וייס לא ירדו?
Hey, where is Weiss? Why didn't Weiss come down? Everybody else is here.
הם לא מפחדים. הם אומרים ש...
Oh, the Weiss family, they're not afraid. They say that they're Orthodox and they're living in Bnei Brak, the Orthodox community that we live, and they say God won't let rockets fall in Bnei Brak because it's an Orthodox community. So they don't come down.
שבבני ברק לא נופלים טילים.
כן, אבל אנחנו לא בדיוק בבני ברק.
Yeah, but we don't live exactly in Bnei Brak. We're on the border of Bnei Brak and Ramat Gan.
אנחנו בגבול רמת גן, יכולים לעוף הרסיסים.
It's possible that a rocket will land in Ramat Gan and the shrapnel will come over into Bnei Brak.
תגידו, אתם יכולים אולי להתקשר לווייס שיכנסו ל...
Hey, wait a second. If Weiss is, this guy's saying, hey, wait a second. If Weiss is not down here and not coming down here, you think I can get in touch with him and ask him to turn off my boiler?
לא הביתה ויסגרו את הבוילר?
ביקשתי, אז למה לא מקשיבים לי? למה לא מקשיבים לי? אני ביקשתי.
מי זה? לא.
מי שם?
Who's there?
לא.
Okay, for many of you who daven in an Orthodox shul, or I guess maybe well, there's Shmona Esrei, the Amidah. During the Amidah prayer, you have to keep your feet together. So the suggestion is that this guy was in the middle of his prayer, his Shmona Esrei, with his feet together when the siren went off. And so now he's coming into the shelter. And, you know, you have to face east for Jerusalem.
Huh? No. כמה פעמים ביקשתי לו לשים פה את הסכך?
אתה רוצה לקנות טוסטר?
כן.
Would you like to buy a toaster?
לא. רק תעזוב אותי
No, I don't really want to buy a toaster. I just want you to be quiet.
בשקט.
קבה.
מי משלם את זה? מי משלם את זה? לא הבנתי.
שולם. מישהו יודע לקשור עניבה?
Shalom, does anybody know how to tie a knot of a tie? So anyway, that's the kind of stuff, and that's the way in the frum community they're reacting to what's going on. They're finding humor in it. They make fun of it.
Bardak.
And then there's a second group that's sort of the competitors. They're called Gut, which is Yiddish for good. And this particular one is their first episode in which a Haredi guy is going to learn how to shoot a gun.
אתם מוכנים? כמראי.
מוכנים לא הייתי אומר, אבל
Are you ready? I guess it's a mitzvah, he said. I guess there's a mitzvah in the Torah that you have to guard your life. So I guess I'll have to do this. I guess it's a mitzvah.
זה כלי מאוד מסוכן.
Remember, this is very dangerous.
או עליך או בכספת.
Watch how you hold it carefully, whether in your holster, but be very careful.
מכניס, דוירך ויוירה.
You put the thing in, you point it, and you shoot. Now the guy repeats. You're supposed to put it in, point it, and shoot. Says, you put it in, put it in, shoot, and point.
מכניס, דוירך ויוירה.
Oh, put it in, point, and shoot. Okay, I got it.
לולא התלמידים שמתחתיי בכלל לא הייתי מתקרב לכלי משחיס הזה. אבל מה לעשות שהם זקוקים לי?
מה אתה עושה? בחיים לא מכוונים אקדח לאנשים. בחיים.
אתה תירה.
לא.
אתה, יש לי רעיון.
I have an idea. Why don't you shoot the gun and I'll watch?
אתה תירה, אני אסתכל, אני אלמד מלראות, ואתה תירה, אני רק אראה ואתה תראה.
ואם יבוא
That's how I'll learn. You shoot and I'll watch.
מחבל אתה, תתקשר אליי, שמדוב.
So what's going to happen when a terrorist comes? You're going to go make a phone call and say, Shimon, come here, and you shoot and I'll watch?
יש מחבל, ורק למדתי לראות מלראות, לא מלראות לראות.
Starting to recite a prayer.
עכשיו ידיים נעולות, מרפקים נעולות, ככה, תפוס חזק, ככה, יציב, שים קצת הרגל קדימה, צד, יפה. בספירה שלי אתה יורה, 3, 2, 1, רגע, למה לא ירית?
למה לך יש את הדבר הזה ולי אין?
Hey, wait a second. Why is it that you're wearing a protective garment, and I don't have a protective body? God.
אני גם רוצה כזה דבר.
I want that also.
אני המדריך פה.
I have to wear it. I'm the guy who teaches other people how to shoot.
צריך כזה.
אני לא צריך.
And me? I don't count?
כזה. מה אתה שאתה מדריך ואתה מיומן, אתה צריך כזה דבר? אין עוד דין שאני פחות מיומן, שלא יצטרך גם דבר כזה.
Now he's using Gemara Talmudic logic. And if you who are so experienced still need a garment, isn't it more so that I who am less experienced need a protective vest?
יודע כמה תלמידים מחכים לי בישיבה שאני אחזור?
Do you know how many students in my yeshiva are hoping and expecting me to return?
תביא לי גם כזה.
מי שיכול להיפגע פה זה אני.
Listen, the only one who really can get injured here is me.
אתה אומר שאני מסוכן?
You're saying I'm dangerous?
חוצף!
פגעת.
You did it.
Good. Yeah.
And I just wanted to share that. Then a very, very brief reminder for just like 10 seconds or so of what Gaza was like before the war when they talk about it being the world's largest open-air prison. Just a reminder how it's a lot. You notice even the sidewalks, unlike a concrete sidewalk, notice even the sidewalks were very nice. It's all over. And that's what it was. And then they decided to make war. And you will see this is not only a clip of Israeli forces, but Arabs from Hamas shooting rockets into Israel nonstop. They yell Allahu Akbar before each rocket. And it's nonstop. And it's right in their house. But they're shooting. If you're wondering why don't the Israelis just shoot the guy, not instead of filming him, as you could see, it's not Israeli film. This was Hamas film. This is
هنا كانت فضائية الأقصى.
This is
اقتحمتها
bombing
قوات الاحتلال الإسرائيلي
of a channel,
وتمركزت بها
Al-Aqsa
أكثر
channel
من
and radio.
15 يوما.
This was a TV and radio
وبعد ذلك
station in Gaza.
قامت بتسويتها
And the
بالأرض
Israelis took it
كما
out.
نشاهد.
See all of those dish satellites. And the Israelis took them out.
לאחר 75 ימי לחימה, מגיעה הבשורה אסטרטגית צבאית משמעותית ראשונה. כוחותינו
75 days of war at this point, and our people, our forces have now taken control of the northern strip.
השיגו שליטה בצפון הרצועה.
זריחה בחורבות סג'איה שהייתה.
We've now basically taken over Shajaya, the Shajaya camp, refugee camp.
לצד השמחה והאופטימיות, עדיין יש מחבלים גם במרחב.
Despite the joy and optimism, there are still terrorists all over the place.
במרחב הזה, וכוחותינו מתמודדים עם לא מעט התקלויות באזורים ג'באליה וסג'איה. במקביל, גם חיל האוויר תוקף בהתאם לצורך.
As needed, the Air Force is bombing in order to clear out areas for the ground forces to go in. Right now, they're in like Shajaya and Jabalia and Shajaya, the two refugee camps still up north that they basically have taken control of finally.
חשיפת אתרי התת-קרקע ברצועה נחלה הצלחות רק בצפון.
And as you know, you already recognize those. They found tunnels in the refugee camps. The whole country, that whole thing is just a city underneath Gaza of tunnels.
נכון לשלב זה, והכוחות במאמץ גדול לאתר מנהרות גדולות ומשמעותיות בדרומה, מתוך הבנה שייתכן וחטופים רבים נמצאים שם, כמו גם בכירי חמאס, אותם ישראל מתאמצת לחסל.
So they're trying their best to go in the tunnels, maybe find hostages, maybe find terrorists and then destroy the tunnels.
מהמידע שעולה במערכת הביטחון, ישראל הייתה קרובה מאוד לבחירי חמאס בשבועות האחרונים, אך זה לא הספיק כדי לחסלה. יכול לקחת זמן מזהירים, אך ברור לכולם שהסוף שלהם הוא אחד.
Israel has been trying to and intends to get the leaders of Hamas, and they will be eliminated one way or another.
התקיפות האוויריות נמשכו באזור רפיח ובמוקדים נוספים. כל יעד שעולה במודיעין זוכה לפחות בפצצה אחת, בזכות המידע שמתקבל מחקירת מחבלים רבים שנתפסו, מעניקים למערכת הביטחון בנק מטרות חדש ואיכותי.
הפעולה מתמקדת בטיהור סוף.
This is the defense minister of Israel, Gallant, Yoav Gallant, and he's saying that the operation is progressing. We're accomplishing a great deal. And underground as well, in all these tunnels. And we're finding an extraordinary amount of stuff in those tunnels. Tremendous amount of weapons of every kind.
יש כאן פעולה שתהיה חוצת שלבים. היא תימשך.
This is going to be an operation that's going to run several stages, and it's going to go on for many more months. This war is not going to end soon. It is going to go on for many more months until we achieve our goals.
חודשים, עד שנגיע ליעדים שלנו, לא נרפה מהמקום הזה, עד שנביא את בכירי הארגון הרצחני.
And we certainly are not going to stop until we've brought every single leader of that murderous group, Hamas, to justice. We will take every one of their leaders and bring them to the place they deserve. Either a cemetery or a prison.
לאחר דבריו של גלנט שלא מותירים מקום לספק, כוחותינו יצאו להתרעננות ונערכים להמשך המלחמה שצפויה עוד לקחת זמן רב.
So this war is going to go on for a long time. And this is Netanyahu, the prime minister. Whoever thinks that we are going to go for a stop and we're just going to end is clearly anyone who thinks that we're going to stop before we've accomplished our goals is clearly detached from reality.
הפרק, העמקת התמרון לאזור רפיח, וכמובן שליטה ביטחונית מלאה בכל שטח הרצועה.
כל מחבלי החמאס, מהראשון...
All leaders, all members of Hamas,
עד האחרון,
all terrorists in Hamas, from the highest rank to the lowest rank, all of them, we're going to kill.
מוות. יש להם רק שתי אפשרויות.
They have only two choices, to surrender or to die.
להיכנע או למות.
אנחנו ננצח.
And so we conclude with the prayer for the armed forces of Israel.
There's a little bit of the Holy Land inside each and every one of us. Every Jew is connected to the land and to our brothers and sisters. We pray, especially on such a holy day as Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, we pray to the Almighty that He keep our brothers and sisters in the Holy Land safe, that He keep our brothers and sisters, our children, serving in the Israeli Defense Forces, protecting the land of Israel, that He keep them safe, that He bring them success, and always, always return them home to their parents safely.
משברך אבותינו אברהם יצחק ויעקב הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, העומדים על משמר ארצנו וערי אלוקינו, מגבול הלבנון ועד מדבר מצרים, ומן הים הגדול עד לבוא הערבה, ביבשה באוויר, באוויר ובים, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, הוא יברך את חיילי צבא הגנה לישראל, ייתן השם את אויבינו הקמים עלינו ניגפים לפניהם, הקדוש ברוך הוא ישמור ויציל את חיילינו מכל צרה וצוקה ומכל נגע ומחלה, נשלח ברכה והצלחה בכל מעשה ידיהם, ידבר שונאינו תחתיהם, ויעטרם בכתר ישועה ובעטרת ניצחון, ויקוים בהם הכתוב כי השם אלוקיכם ההולך עמכם להילחם לכם, עם אויביכם להושיע אתכם, ונאמר אמן.
First of all, I want to thank everybody for being here and for having spent this Sunday morning with us. A reminder, we won't meet next Sunday. We'll not meet next Sunday because I have another very important synagogue administrative responsibility that has to be handled next Sunday. Other than that, and I'll send out an email reminder. Just to let you know, it's also percolating in my mind. Before the war broke out, Sunday mornings were dedicated to learning Torah, advanced topics on advanced levels with advanced texts, for which you don't need to know Hebrew, and I teach and I explain everything. It's very understandable. Nevertheless, that was what Sunday morning primarily was about, and we've moved to this advanced topic, as it were, covering what's going on in the war. But it also is percolating in my mind that I want to get back Sunday mornings to Torah learning, the advanced texts. So I suspect that As we turn into January, I'll be moving that direction again. And what I'll be doing, many of you may remember from the past, the way we always did it, I would prepare texts of rabbinic responsa. That's what I would do Sunday morning, where Rav Moshe Feinstein or Rav Abadi Yoseph would publish a response to a contemporary question, and then we would learn out the question and the response and take away not only an interesting question and answer, but we would learn a lot of secondary aspects of it as well through that, and learn Torah that way. And so just as we learn one aspect of Torah on Tuesday nights, where we do Navi, the Bible, now Shmuel Aleph, last 3 chapters, moving on to Shmuel Bet, in the same way we would do learning on Sunday morning. So I wanted to let you know that that's percolating. So in the next 1 or 2 weeks or so, I expect we'll be moving Sunday mornings into that direction. I hope when that happens, you'll continue coming Sunday mornings, and that your interest would be not only with what's going on with the war and with Israel, but that you'd be interested in learning Torah with me. But I wanted to let you know that. So I wish everybody a very nice week. I know many of you have winter vacation this week. I wrestled a little bit whether even to meet today, but we're a shul, and tomorrow is Monday. And so I felt, sure, let's learn Torah together. Final word, I'll teach you about something called Nittelnacht. Raise your hand if you've ever heard of Nittelnacht. I'm seeing one hand. Okay. Nittelnacht, it's a very, I'll teach you just this little piece of Torah. It's a very interesting thing. Back in the Middle Ages, the rabbis were asked, should we learn Torah on December 25th? Perhaps December 25th, because of December 20th, maybe we should not learn Torah on that day. And it's like a lot of, it's serious question, serious responses. And there are people who learn Torah every single day, but not on Nittelnacht, not on that one night a year. Because, well, maybe I'll even learn that with you some point. But I wanted to tell you about that. And so thanks very much for being here, and have a wonderful vacation week. And thanks for making these classes possible for me also. Bye-bye.